right, good morning, everybody. I'm going to get us kicked off with some joins. Trying to think if there's any housekeeping before I jump into it. I don't think so. So for after this class, I'm going to have an office hour. If you need any help with your project or have any things that came up that maybe didn't get addressed in check-ins, so feel free to come to that if you have anything. We are going to do a review in the afternoon and a review of the independent challenge. So just we'll keep you posted in Slack. We will figure out which Zoom room we're going to use for that, but plan on attending that from 2 to 4. Yeah, I think that's about it. So let's go ahead and get into joins. So for our our class today, we're going to build off of what we talked about in the Sql and Activerecord class last week. And so what we're going to do for this first practice session is we're going to write out some Sql for one of these commands and Activerecord for the corresponding Activerecord for that command. So I've got 2 queries here. So I've got queries 1 and 2. The first one is get the title of the song with the most plays. The second one is get the 5 longest songs that have the word love in the title and at least 100 plays. And I'm pretty sure these were two of the practice from the last class. So kind of building off of what we did. We are talking about joins today, and I think that it's very likely that some of you all have very different levels of understanding of joins based on just what your familiarity is from previous experiences and from the intermission work. So if you want to kind of push ahead a little bit further and try a join, there is a third query here that you can attempt. So what I want you all to do is pick one of these queries and spend the next about, you could say like 7 minutes. So we'll go until 9:10 trying one of these queries. And do this on your own, and then I'll give you a chance to talk about it with somebody else. So pick just one of these, write the Sql and the Activerecord. Let's take about 3 more minutes on our own. All right. Can I get a raise hand reaction if you were working on query 1? Cool. Can I get a raise hand if you were working on query 2? And put your hand down if you were working on a different one. Cool. And then how about query 3? All right. So I'm going to open out some breakup rooms or some breakout rooms, and you'll be able to choose your room. I need to relabel some of them because it seems like most people are on query 1, which is fine. There we go. So I've got a bunch of these breakout rooms open here. There we go. Okay, so I'll open them now. I've got a bunch of these breakout rooms. They're each labeled query 1, query 2. I want you to join one of those rooms. And ideally, I want to get groups of 2 or 3 in the room. So if there's more than 3 people, try to find another room and pair up with some other people. And yeah, I want you to take a couple of minutes to discuss what you came up with for the queries. Ideally, you're sharing your screen, sharing some code that you've written. Yeah. So if you don't have any questions, go ahead and pick one of those rooms and try to get paired up with like 1 or 2 other people. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and unmute.
How do I join one of these rooms?
If you click on the breakout rooms button, you should have an option to join.
I can see who's in them, but I can't join them.
Gotcha. So you probably need to update your Zoom. Make sure that you do that right after this call, but I'll go ahead and assign you to one of them. Which one were you working on?
Query 1.
Cool.
Found one.
Hey, George.
Hi, Brian.
Hey, it looks like you're the only one who is working on this one. So
I actually, the only thing that I'm having trouble with is Activerecord, where you have to select both the songs and also the artist name. I wasn't sure how to get Activerecord to select two different values, or like a different value from a joined table versus just like the value from the table you're running the query on. Because I know that join will give you, it'll append it, but I don't know how to return that unless it automatically does that and I'm like not reading the data correctly.
Why don't you show me what you've got and we can work through it together?
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah, let me actually pull up the repo. I write this by hand and then I just like figure, I just know that it works. I've done enough SQL. For the Activerecord stuff, yeah, let me load that real quick. Just doing research.
Yeah, there's a couple of quirks of working through Activerecord. We'll talk about them. We'll talk through some of the key ones today, but we can go ahead and start right now.
Okay. Okay. So. Do you know what which repo we should be in, or does it not really matter?
Oh, like which branch?
Yeah.
I don't think it matters. I think as long as you have songs and artists, you should be good.
Okay. Oops. Actually, hold on. Wait, sorry. This is the database thing. Let me exit this real quick. Okay. Oh, sorry, artist. Okay, perfect. All right, so I guess we'll do song.joins artists. Dot where I don't know if that works, but maybe it does because it's direct SQL.
Yeah, it looks good to me. So whenever you have those, like whenever you're passing a string argument, like you're passing the string argument to a where, it is just SQL. You're right. So I think that will work.
Oh, perfect. There we go. And play count.
So this is one of the quirks of working with Activerecord. So when it says can't join the song to association named artist. So if you pull open your song model, the association is called artist. So just change joins to artist.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, let's see. So statement invalid error where. Okay. Maybe I just feed in title.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just song and not songs. Or sorry, it was songs and not song.
Mm,
It was just, yeah, songs.title. You had song.title.
yeah.
Cool.
So let's see.
So I think the problem here is we just don't have any songs with the word love in it. So maybe if you just change it to a different string, like, I don't know, I'm trying to look at these songs here.
We'll change maybe. Boom.
Nice. Great job. Great job. Yeah, I think you got it. The big thing there that is like kind of tricky is just knowing that when we say joins, we have to join it on one of our associations. But we'll definitely talk about that more.
And so the part where it says find the artist name along with it, is that something that's like supposed to be like how would I incorporate that along with this data, or like with this query? Is it possible to do that?
Yeah, so the select defaults to songs.star, but if you need the artists as well, you would have to throw in a select statement to say also select the artist information. So you could say song.select and then pass it whatever you want to select, which would be in this case the song, probably songs.star and artist.name.
Something like this.
Yeah, in a string, just like that. Yeah, try that. Artists.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. And then on that, can you chain on dot first dot name, and you'll get it.
Console. But enter also is close.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Can I get a volunteer to screen share? And let's do some driver navigator here. So could I get a volunteer to let's just for time's sake, we won't do driver navigator. Can I get someone to share their screen and show what they wrote for the first query? So get the title of the song with the most plays. I know a lot of you worked on this query, so someone had to get something working. Preset, thank you.
We can get it in the Activerecord Rails console, but not the DB console. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's start with the Activerecord side of it.
Okay, so what we did was we did song.order by play count, and we wanted to send it order by descending. Honestly, the ordering, it doesn't have to be descending. because even if we don't do it this way, we can call dot last. But in this case, we're just gonna call the first one that is out. So it's gonna bring out this object, but we wanna pull out the title. So we do dot first, dot title. And we have
excellent. Great job, Brisa. Yeah, so we've got the song title there. I want to like hear from the crowd. So this will definitely get the right answer. What are some other things we could add on to this query to make it maybe slightly more efficient or maybe a little more optimal? And Brisa, feel free to chime in if you have one. What are some other things we could add on here?
As you can see by our attempt, we did try plucking it, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm showing it here.
What would the advantage be of plucking?
It just pulls the title in this case scenario.
Yeah, exactly. So if we only need the title, we can just tell it to grab that one thing. So I can work through that, Brisa. So rather than a pluck, can you add on onto your query? And so for these active record methods, most of them, the order doesn't matter, but it needs to go before the dot first, because the dot first is like where active record stops. So at the beginning, you could add dot select and then pass it the symbol of title. And then put a dot before the order. So.
Oh, and then order by play count.
Yeah.
Okay, and then let's see what that pulls up. So I think it pulls up the, I don't see the play count.
Yeah, because we don't see the play count. Why is that, Brisa?
Because we're just selecting the song title at this point.
Exactly. Yep. So because we now have said we're selecting only the title, we don't see those play counts, but we can still order by the play count. So I like what you had before where you're ordering by play count descending. Can you change it to that version?
Oh,
yeah. So rather than dot last, do play count descending dot first. So the advantage of doing that, well, actually, I'll kind of walk you through how we could change it. Let's do dot first. Yeah. Perfect. And then we can call dot title on that. So this optimizes our query a little bit because now the database is only getting the data we need. It's only selecting the title. Along that same vein of only getting the data that we need, if we only care about the first one, the first object returned here, the one with the longest play count, yeah, the longest song, what could we add on here if we only care about one of them?
If we only care about the longest song?
Yeah, yeah. If we're only going to get the first one, what could we add on here?
I'm not sure.
Can I get a volunteer? Come on, y'all. You're leaving Brisa hanging. I know somebody knows this. Claudia.
Yeah, you would want to add a limit on there.
There we go. So on the end of your order clause, yeah. So you could try to do this, but it won't quite work because at this point we've already, it says undefined limit for the string. So if you stay right there, Brisa, let me just highlight. So this part right here is where our active record is. And then once we get into dot first, dot title, that's where our query is kind of ended. So let's put the dot limit right here after the call to order. So it should be dot order play count descending dot limit 1. There we go. So same thing, but we're only getting the first one back with the longest play count. And now we can call dot first dot title on that.
Okay. Thank you.
can you
Oh.
hit the, let's just to complete it, let's do the same thing and then call our dot first on here. So if it's still in this active record relation object, we still need to call dot first to kind of pull it out of that object. And that will give us our song with the title.
Okay.
Awesome. Great job, Brisa. All right, y'all. Well, that was fun. Let's go ahead and take a palm and we'll come back and we'll get into some joins next. So come back at 9:33. everybody a couple more seconds to get back on. Go ahead and turn your video on or give me a thumbs up when you're back. The first thing that I can do is I see there's some chat about the commands to output SQL. So let me go through what Brisa just did for us. So song dot, what was it? It was where, actually now I don't remember what it was. Title of the song with the most plays. So we'll select, we're trying to get the title. We want the most plays, so we'll order play count descending. We only care about the first one, so we can limit it to 1. So there we go. There would be my query. So in terms of seeing the SQL that's output, when you're in the Rails console, it will print out the SQL for you. Now, the SQL in the Rails console usually adds this limit parameter, and it has like this funky syntax. The way that you can read the syntax of the Rails console output is when you have this $sign here, that's saying it's accepting some sort of argument, and the argument list appears on the right over here. So for example, $1 means the first argument, which is the first element in this array, which is our limit parameter of 1. So this is limiting it to 1 right there. So that syntax can be kind of hard to read. I think if I add in something else, like maybe a dot, where maybe we only want to find songs where length is greater than or equal to 1 or something. And let's actually do the question mark syntax here. So question mark, comma 1 inside my where. That didn't quite work the way I was hoping. I was hoping it was going to show us like another version of these arguments, but can't quite get that to work, but that's okay. So this is the first way that you can see the SQL output if you're doing Activerecord first. And then the second thing you can do is you can call .toSQL. So if you're pried in somewhere rather than in a Rails console, you won't be able to, it won't automatically display the SQL. So you can use toSQL, and that will print out or return to you a string of the SQL commands. But with strings, there are certain characters that are not allowed, for instance, quotes. So you can't have a quote inside a string because that would be like ending the string. And so the quotes are escaped with this / character. So when you just do toSQL, the like actual value returned can look kind of funky. But if you print it out with something like puts, it will get rid of all those escape characters. So this is a SQL command that I could just take and drop right into a Rails DB console and execute it with a semicolon. Sorry. So paste it in, add in a semicolon, and then there's my same output in SQL. So that's how you can view the SQL. Yeah. Ryan.
Yeah, I was trying to do like a little Googling in the break. Isn't this a case where we could use the max aggregate because we just want a single return?
Yeah, that is that's not a bad idea. The issue with yeah, could I use max here? It would look, so I could do something like song.max. I'm trying to find the longest song, so I could do song.max length. Wait. Oh, I'm kind of realizing now. I think before, when we were getting the title of the song with the most plays, we probably wanted to order it by length, not play count. I just realized that. So what we actually did before with Brisa was we got the song that's been with the most plays. Oh, wait, no. I'm sorry. I keep reading this wrong. That's what we wanted to do. We want to get the song with the most plays. Okay. I think I keep looking at mixing up 1 and 2. Okay. So anyway, yes, max play count. And that doesn't Oh, it's maximum, I think, is the active record call. There we go. So the issue with doing this is that it'll get us the maximum play count, but it won't give us the song object. It just gives us the raw max number there. So it's kind of hard to use this to get the song, the title of the song. I think if you wanted to do this, you would actually have to put this aggregate directly into the select statement. So you have to say max play count in here. Actually, I think what you could, yeah, I don't even know how I would do this, to be honest, Ryan. This would give me my max play count, but then what would I do with that? I think I would actually want to order it by the maximum play count. Yeah, I think that's probably what I would have to do. But that doesn't really make sense. Yeah, I can't really figure it out, Ryan, to be honest. What you could do is you could take the max play count, maximum, I don't know why it's doing that. And then you could just look up any songs that have this max play count, but then you're doing 2 queries. And so it's a little bit less efficient.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions coming up from this first activity? And let's just look at the Sql a little bit more in depth here. So we're still selecting the song title because that's what we're after. We're getting everything from the songs table. We've got, yeah, I added in this where statement here. Let me just take that out. So we're ordering it by the song's play count, descending, so that we get the songs with the most plays first. We're limiting it to 1 because we only care about the first one after that. And that's going to return our table with 1 row and 1 column, which is the title that we're after. All right, let's talk about joins. So joins is the new thing that we're layering on here today. So the first thing I want to talk about is like, when do you know if you need to use a joins or not? So far, all the queries that we have written have involved 1 table. So for example, song.all. This is a query that just gets all of our songs. We just want all of the songs. We've also added in some .wheres, so we could say where the title is this, or we could say like where play count is greater than this or less than this, et cetera, et cetera. So both of these queries are only dealing with the songs table. We're not really like related to artists yet. We're just dealing with the songs table. We've also seen queries that are involving 1 table that is associated with a single record. So for example, song.artist or artist.songs, in each of these cases, we're only referencing 1 record from the other table. So in our song.artist, we're actually referencing 1 record from each table. There's 1 song and 1 artist related to that song. So we're song.artist would grab the artist from the appropriate artist from the songs, from the artist table, excuse me. Artist.songs, very similar. We're only dealing with the 1 artist from that table. So we know exactly what record from one of these tables we're dealing with. We're dealing with this specific artist, this specific song. So these are queries that don't involve joins so far. So you're only dealing with 1 table, or you're dealing with multiple tables, but one of them is just a single record from the table. So when we need to layer in this concept of joins is when we need information from 2 tables. So for example, find the artists with songs that have been played more than 100 times. Find all the songs where the artist name contains Prince. So bullet 1 and bullet 2, examples where we wouldn't need a joins. Bullet 3 is an example where we would need a joins. So now in this third example, we want all artists and all the songs for those artists. So we're dealing with multiple artists and multiple songs. Find all the songs where the artist name contains Prince. Well, we're looking at all the songs and each song has an artist. So there's multiple songs and multiple artists involved. So anytime we're dealing with multiple records from multiple tables. Any questions about this concept so far? Joey?
Joins can be for multiple tables though, right? More than, it's like 2 or greater is when you do a join, right?
Yeah, so I'm saying multiple, meaning like 2 or more. It could be, 3, 4, 500, 1,000, whatever.
Got it.
Any other questions coming up so far? So this is when you would need to join. Andrew?
Does join only work when you have one of those tables that has keys pointing at 2 different tables? Or
Not necessarily. I will say in most cases, and just to be clear, the when we say like keys pointing to other tables, we're talking about foreign keys. So a foreign key, it's like going outside of the table, it's foreign. So not always. You don't always need to join using foreign keys. And we'll talk a little bit more about how joins works, but almost always, I would say like 99.99% of the time, when we're talking about joining tables, they're related by foreign keys. So for example, our songs have an artist ID foreign key. Other questions coming up so far? Let's get into a little exploration here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to execute these SQL commands, and I'm going to have you all answer, think about these questions on your own. So I'll just go ahead and drop these questions into the chat right now so that you have easy access to them. So 3 questions. What did the last query do? I'll go ahead and execute that in just a second. How would you describe it? Why are we not seeing all the artists? And how would you describe what that last query is doing in English? So let me do this for y'all. I think I want to do this actually. Yeah. Okay. So we're first going to do a select star from songs so that we can see everything in our songs table. We'll do a select star from artists so that we can see everything in our artist table. So we've got all of our songs. They have foreign keys pointing to the artist that they are associated with. So we can match this artist ID foreign key to this ID over here. So then in order to join these 2 tables together, I'll do select star from artists joins songs on artists.id equals songs.artist ID. And we'll see if I type that out correctly. From artists, syntax error at the beginning of songs. What did I do? Select star from, oh, I think I said joins and not join. SQL is finicky. There, select star from artist join songs on artist ID equals songs.artist ID. There it is. There we go. I'm going to edit this a little bit just to make it a little bit more readable. So when I say select star, this just gives me everything back. And I'm seeing a little bit too much here. So I don't really want these timestamp columns. So let's do, so now I can manually say which columns I want to see. So I want to see the artist ID, the artist's name, the song's ID, the song's title, and let's just grab the song's artist ID as well. And I think I have a little bit more room here. So in addition to the title, I'll also throw in the song's length and the song's play count. There we go. So I'll clear the screen just so we can keep focused. I've got my query there. I've got my return value, my returned table from that query. So I want you all to think through these questions. And let me actually do one other thing that will help. So if I do select star from artists, I can see that I have a couple artists in here that I created, but I don't see them in my return value up here. So I have the other ones, like I have Prince, I have Run the Jewels, I have Camp, I have Jerry Garcia, I have Billie Eilish, LCD Sound System. So I have all of those artists there, but then these other ones, it looks like I was just like messing around and trying to create some artists. These ones I don't see in this return value. So for the question of why, this is related to the last question, or sorry, the second question, why are we not seeing all the artists in this last query? So go ahead and take a look at those questions in the chat. I'll give you all a couple minutes to think through them. I'd recommend like open up a notebook and write down your answers. Just to be clear, when it's talking about the last query, it's talking about this one that we did with the joins in it. All right. I'd love to get some thoughts from y'all. So yeah, what did this last query do? How might you describe the return value of this query? Can I get a brave volunteer? What did this query do? Ksenia.
I'll try. I suppose it selected artists that have songs and songs that have artists, and it didn't show us if the connection wasn't there. Like if artists didn't have any songs, it didn't show us those artists.
Yep, you've got it. So for example, these last two in here don't have any songs. That's why we're not seeing them in this output. So yes, you're right, Ksenia. This output is connecting songs to artists. So if we have a song that doesn't have an artist or an artist that doesn't have any songs, then we won't see it there. I didn't show you all this before, but if I do select star from songs, we should be able to see that those two artists of 7 and 8 don't have any entries in this foreign key column on the right here. So there are no songs that belong to that artist. Great job. I want to hear, Ksenia, I think that you did a great job there. I want to hear maybe some more thoughts on how would you describe this? Claudia, thank you.
I'm kind of feeling like this is like if you had a joins table for songs and artists, like this looks like that, except for with like the columns of name and title and length and play count as well. Because you have the like song ID and you also have the artist ID, so it kind of like looks like a joins table.
Yeah, that's a really good connection. It's very similar to our joins tables that we talked about with many-to-manys, but I do want to be very clear that this is a separate concept. They are related, but it's not exactly a joins table. It's very similar to a joins table. As Claudia is saying, we can see that it's connecting multiple IDs together. We even have we even have 3 columns for IDs. So we have 2 primary key columns and 1 foreign key column here. Yeah. So yes, this table is very similar to a join table. Like Ksenia said, it's connecting records from each of these tables together. So it's connecting an artist like Prince to one of their songs, Raspberry Beret. So because each row in this new table is connecting a song to an artist, we get multiple artist names because the artist has multiple songs. So there's an entry here for every one of Prince's songs. There's an entry here for every one of Run the Jewels songs. It looks like all of our artists have 2 songs, and I can see that on my artist ID column. I have 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6, 6. So every artist has exactly 2 songs. So I get 2 rows for them in this joins table. And I realized I just misspoke there. I said we get 2 entries in this joins table, and I'm mixing my terminology there. So the joins tables are the ones that we use for many-to-many. I would say that this is maybe a better description is a joined table. This is a table that we created by calling this join command right here. Let's do a couple more slides, and then we will, and I'll go back to that output so we can see it. So joins, this is what is going to allow us to make those queries using data from 2 or more tables. So as I said before, the key that you know that you need to joins is when you're dealing with multiple records from multiple tables. So this pulls data from multiple tables into a single temporary table. So back to Claudia's point about this looks very similar to a join table. This is when we run a joins operation, that table is not a permanent table that's stored in the database. That's like it's a temporary table that allows us to make queries. So you can kind of think of it as like a working table or like a workspace. If I'm like doing a math problem, I might like write down a bunch of things in order to like just keep track of them to do a math problem. But I'm not necessarily like saving that anywhere. It's kind of like scratch paper for figuring something out. So you can, if I flip back over here, you can think of this table as like our scratch paper. We're gathering all this data so we can make some calculations, but we're not saving this data. So that's what we mean by when we say it's a temporary table versus your join table for managing a many-to-many, or another word you might see is associative table. Those tables are permanent tables. They're part of your schema. They are part of your database. They're storing permanent data. Joins creates these temporary tables for us. So each row in this temporary working table connects a record from one table to the other. So every row in our joins table is the connection of in this joined table, this one that we executed is the connection between an artist and a song, or it connects an artist to a song. The way that we created this joined table is that we matched a foreign key from one of the tables to the primary key of the other table. So in this case, we match the song's artist ID foreign key to the artist's ID primary key. If I look back at my output over here, the on portion of the query, so we say from artist join songs on artist ID equals songs.artist ID. So we say the two tables we're trying to join. So from artist join songs, we tell it the two tables, but then we also have to specify how we join them together. So we say match this primary key with this foreign key. So artist.id matches songs.artist ID. And this is almost always true. So this gets back to Andrew's point of, is it always like a connection between a foreign key and a primary key? It is almost always, especially when we're working in Rails, that's what we're going to be joining on. You can join on other things. So for example, if I go back to my output over here, there's no reason I couldn't try to match maybe like the artist.name with songs.title. So this query would essentially say, I want to find artists where they have songs that have the same name as the artist name. I can't think of any examples of that. I don't know. Can anybody think of a song where the artist has a song that's the same as the artist name? Like, does Rush have a song called Rush? Or does Miley Cyrus have a song called Miley Cyrus? I don't know if that's the case, but this is what that query would do. So a lot of times it just like doesn't make sense. It's kind of hard to think of something to join on besides primary key to foreign key. That doesn't mean that you can't do it. We can still do it, but it's just we're very rarely going to do this. So let me go back to this version of joins where we're matching foreign key to primary key. All right, what else we got here? So each row is going to contain attributes from both tables. So if I look back over to my my output here, I see both song information and artist information in this output, or sorry, in each row. And I got that by telling it what to select. So you can see that I wrote this big long select statement here to specify exactly what columns I wanted. Those columns are the columns that appear in this output. So the first one is the artist ID, second one's artist name, third one songs ID, fourth one songs title, et cetera, et cetera. And the reason why I did this select version is because I didn't want to see those updated at and created at timestamps, which just made the output hard to read. So this is an example of what I was saying earlier. Now I'm working with data from multiple tables at the same time. I'm working with both artist columns and song columns. At this point, I've only selected them, so I haven't done too much, but it's going to allow us to do other things with those columns. Okay. So that's this is kind of like the what I really need you to know about joins. Yeah, what questions are coming up so far? George?
So I was doing like the Sql exercises, and I realized there's two different types of joins, the outer joins and the inner joins. And I noticed after running Rails console Activerecord commands and then doing the toSql, they're inner joins. And I was kind of confused on like the differences between both types of joins and the use cases when you use them. And I was wondering if you could kind of bring clarity to that, especially in like the framework of Activerecord, because It's still confusing for me both ways, but we're using Activerecord, so it's easier to understand it that way.
Yeah. We are going to talk about that next. I want to hold off on that because I would say that's like maybe like need to know, or sorry, nice to know territory, and not necessarily need to know. So I want you to have like heard about the different types of joins, but we're not going to emphasize it too much. So I'll get there in a second, George.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Andrew.
Okay, so if we did this with a table or like two tables that had many-to-many relationships with each other, then would we need to include in our request the table that kind of mediates between the two? Or like how would we do this for a many-to-many?
So I should have a many-to-many here. I think if I do select star from playlists, no, I don't have any playlists in here. Do I have any seeds? Yeah, I have the seeds. I just don't have playlists. Okay, let me grab, I think I have playlists in here. Yeah, I'm just gonna grab this setup data here and drop it into my seeds file. So maybe I'll just comment out that initial seeds and do this. And so now I should be able to, in this Rail, or in over here, I should be able to run Rails DB seed. And hopefully it will, I think this will work. Yep. Okay, so now that my database is seeded, I should be able to select start from playlists, and I see a couple playlists in here. So I should have playlists, and then I should also have playlist songs as well. And this is my table joining records together. And then I should be able to select star from songs as well. So Andrew, essentially what we need to do is if we have these three tables, now instead of just joining two together, we actually have to join three together. So first I'll just join the two together. I'll say select star from songs, join playlists, or sorry, playlist songs on playlist songs dot song ID equals songs dot ID. So that's the first thing that I can do, and this is going to join a song to a playlist song. And notice that each song, in addition to having the song ID, now has the playlist ID. It's the last record here. Let me actually do what I did before, and rather than select star, let's just select songs dot title, songs dot ID. This will take a little bit too long to specify all of them. That's okay, I'll just keep going. So now each of these records, because it's joined with the playlist song, also has the playlist ID. So what I have to do here is I have to add in another join. I have to then say join playlists on playlist songs dot playlist ID equals playlists dot ID. There we go. So I've just taken that concept to one step, or you've taken this concept to one step further, where now rather than just joining two tables together, now I've joined three tables. Because my many-to-many involves three tables, there's the join table sitting in the middle, I can use that to join all three together. So this is kind of the relationship between join table and joins. I'm using these three tables and including my join table to create this temporary table, which would then allow me to do, this would then allow me to do some more sophisticated data analysis. So we'll get into some more practice problems a little bit later. Andrew, do you have any follow-up on that, or was that good?
I think I get it, or at least I get the concept. I'm not sure whether I would be able to implement it properly.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's okay for right now. I think for now we're still working through conceptually. and we'll get to some practice problems a little bit later. Let's
Can
go
I
ahead and
actually ask one clarifying thing?
yeah, absolutely.
When you're joining them, are you it's hard for me to read the code clearly, but are you joining like them one at a time, or say, okay, take these two, join them, now take that thing that we just joined together and join it with this other thing? Or is the code saying take these three things and join them all together at once?
It's more of the first thing that you described. So it's more like we're joining two tables together and then tacking on a third table. So if we can, every time we join, it's like it's rejoining and it's just adding more on every single time. Yeah. Ksenia?
So with more than two tables joining, the order matters. Yes.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe if we tried to just select star from songs and then we threw on join playlist songs, or sorry, then yeah. So this last joins here where we join to playlists. If we tried to say from songs joins playlists, it wouldn't work because there's no direct connection between playlists and songs. Let me just type that out. So we could do select star from songs, join playlists on playlists dot ID equals playlist songs dot playlist ID. So if I do this, this isn't going to work because we're trying to reference a table playlist songs that we have not included in our from or our join statements. So it's going to say missing from clause entry for table playlist songs. And then if we try to add it by joining, so we say then join playlist songs on songs.id equals playlist songs.song ID, we're still going to get the same error. So once it gets to playlist songs, once it gets to this point right here, up until that point in the query, we haven't yet included playlist because that's coming later in the query over here. So yes, the order matters. Let's go ahead and take a POM here. When we come back, we'll run through the different types of joins and I'll give you all a chance to practice. So come back at 10, we'll do 10:17. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Start back up. And we're going to talk about the different types of joins here. So as I mentioned earlier, this is not like crucial information. This is something that we definitely want you to have heard of, and maybe it's familiar to you, but we're not going to do too much of it. We're not going to emphasize this too much throughout the mod. So types of joins, we've got our inner join, left join, and our right join. Both of the left and the right are types of outer joins. So for inner joins, if we imagine our two tables as Venn diagrams, table A and table B, from our definition of joins earlier, we said that when we use a joins, it connects a record from one table to the other. So if we think of them as a Venn diagram, the overlapping portion of the Venn diagram, the part that's highlighted in red, that's the part that's going to be returned from an inner join. This is the default type of join. So when I just type join in SQL, if I flip back over to my output here, I just typed in join. I didn't say inner join or anything, and it automatically did an inner join. And we know that it was an inner join because, can I go, how far back can I go? Right here. Oh, and I would need to flip my seed file back over to the other version. That's okay. But when we did it earlier, we saw that we got back some artists that did not have any songs. I can't go back that far, but we got some, we did not get any artists that had any songs. So if one record from table A in this case doesn't have a record from table B, they will not be returned from the inner join. So this is what we did in the exploration. We only return records that match the on condition, or records from table A that have a corresponding record in table B. Moving on to left joins, this is our first type of outer join. So this gets all the records from table B and corresponding records, all the records from table A and corresponding records from table B. And this is regardless of whether or not a record from table A has that corresponding record in table B. When we're talking about left and right, left refers to the first table reference. So it's left in terms of how we write out the query. So from table A, join table B, table A is the left one. It appears first in the order that you write it out. So when we say from artists left join songs, artists is the left table. It appears on the left side of the join statement. So this is what that would look like if we're trying to join, if we're trying to find artists that don't have any songs. So to demonstrate this, I am going to do this real quick. I want to flip back over to my other version of my seeds file. There we go, and reseed my database. And it's not going to let me do that. Yeah, so I get this update or delete on table songs violates foreign key constraint on table playlist songs. So what this is saying is that if I deleted all the songs, any playlist song that is referencing that song would be orphaned. It wouldn't have a valid song it was pointing to. So I need to destroy all of those before I can destroy the songs. This is something you'll run into as you work with seed file. Okay, so it looks like that's seeded appropriately. Let's go back to this version. So if I do my select star from, actually I can just do this version. Oh, and I need to change this to artist ID matching artist.id. There we go. Okay, so this query right here is going to return to me, because I just said join right here, it just returns to me all of these records that match a song and an artist. But if I do my select star from artists, oh, and now I don't have those artists without a song. So what I can do is I can go over to my Rails console and I can create one of those artists. So I'll say artist.create, and this artist will have, I'll name this artist no songs. So now jump back over to my PSQL session. Now I see that no songs artist in here. If I do my join like this, because it's an inner join, I don't see that artist with no songs. If I go in here and I change this to a left join, so from artists left join songs, now I can see this artist in here, but it's not connected to any song object. So that's the difference between left join and inner join. And right join works the same way, except now it would get records from the right table that don't necessarily have a match from the left table. So back over here, right join will get all the records from table B and corresponding records from table A, regardless of whether or not records from table B have a corresponding record in table A. So left and right joins are the same thing. It just depends on which table you reference first. That's the left table. The second table is the right table. And I would just have this Venn diagram as kind of like your mental model for how this works. All right. So now the good part, now that we've like kind of covered how joins works conceptually, let's get into how we're actually going to use it in terms of Activerecord. So this is the syntax for joining two tables together in Activerecord. So let me show you this in my Rails console. So if I'm trying to do a very similar thing in Activerecord, I can do artist.joins songs. And if we look at the SQL output, it's very similar to what we wrote before. So select artist.star from artists, inner join songs on songs.artistid equals artist.id. This is also demonstrating what I said earlier, that joining it defaults to inner joining. So this Activerecord is going to default to making an inner join here. So to this question of how does Activerecord know how to join these tables, notice that in this command here, I didn't say anything like match the song ID to, or song artist ID to the artist foreign key like I had to do in SQL. I just say artist.join songs, and Activerecord knows how to do it magically. It just knows how to match those foreign keys and primary keys together. So how does it magically know how to do this? Well, the answer is our associations. So I taught you all Activerecord associations in week 1, and I said something like, this is really important. It's going to, it's very powerful. It's going to come into play in other things. This is one of those key concepts that Activerecord associations pop back up. So let me demonstrate this by looking at my artist model. So if I look at artist.rb, I see that it has many songs. This is what gives me the ability to call artist.joins songs. Similarly, if I look at my song model, I can see that a song belongs to an artist. So I could also say in my Rails console, song.joins artist. And that will give me a very similar query here, very similar query. So I can do song.joins artists. I can do artist.joins songs. Now, something that I think students run into very frequently when they're first working with joins is they'll make the mistake of doing something like this, song.joins artists. And they'll hit enter and they'll say like, oh, it's just not working. It just can't join. I just can't get it working. Go ahead and read this full output. Read the full output of this error. So it tells me active record configuration error, can't join song to association named artists. Perhaps you misspelled it. So this is active record trying to tell me, hey, you need to join to an association here, which is your has manys and belongs to. So any of these associations that I have in my models, I can join to them, but you have to spell them correctly. So it belongs to artist, not artists, not plural. So I have to change this to song.joins artist, not artists. So because under the hood, active record knows that with these associations, it's matching foreign keys to primary keys. It also knows how to use that to make these join statements. So make sure that when you're joining, that you're paying attention to what associations are in your models. So this is going to return to us in one of those active record relation objects. And remember, this is it looks and behaves like an array, and it represents a collection of these active record objects. Specifically, it represents an array of these active record objects. Oh, there we go. Looks and behaves just like an array. When we do artist.join songs, we couldn't see any song data. So let me show you that again. Artist.joins songs. And let me also throw in a pretty print at the beginning here so that we can demonstrate this. And take a look at our pretty printed output. You can see the artist information, like the ID and the name coming through. But even though we joined it to the songs table, we don't see that song information. We still only get artist information. So this is one of the quirks of working with active record. It is going to default to, if we look more closely at our SQL output, it's going to default to just selecting data from the artist table. So if I just by default, artist.join songs only selects artist information. So the way it works in active record is whatever model you start the query with, so in this case, artist, it will only select data from that table. So because we start with artists, it does select artist.star, so we don't see any song data come back. It still joined the tables together, it just didn't grab any of that song information with it. If I then do, I'll do a pretty print for song.joins artist, we'll see something very similar. We'll see a SQL query that selects everything from the songs table because we started with the song model, but because it only selected song data, we don't see any of that artist data come through. So how do we get around this? If we want both song and artist data to come back, well, what we would have to do is we would have to manually tell active record what to select. So we can say .select artist.star songs.star. So now we're overriding that default behavior of active record. We're saying, hey, active record, we know you want to just select song data by default, but we're going to tell you what to select instead. We're going to have you select everything from the artist table and everything from the songs table. So if I scroll back up here and look at my SQL query, I can see that I was successful in overriding that select statement. Now I have select songs.star and artist.star in this output. But if you look at the pretty print, I'm still running into the same issue. I'm still only seeing song data because we started with the song model. I still only see ID, title, length, play count. I don't see that artist name coming back. So even though we're still joining these tables together, we don't see anything in the output. So what's going on here? Essentially what's happening is that active record is joining these tables together and it's retrieving the data. It's just when you print them out, because they're modeled as song objects, they don't show you any of the artist data by default. So the data is there, you just can't see it. And in order to demonstrate that, I can pull out the first record from this active record association. And I see my title, length, and play count, but I don't see my artist name. But if I call name, I still get back that artist name. So this is a tricky thing about working with join tables in Activerecord. When it's printing it out to us, it doesn't show us attributes from different tables, but they're still there. They're kind of like hidden attributes. And the way that I will describe these is that these are virtual attributes. So any data that we've selected that is not part of the model, like the artist name, which is not part of the song model, it is creating a virtual attribute. So here are my slides. I just kind of have a summary of what I've done. So we add in this select statement to say select both data from both tables. And it's still, in this case, if we start with artist, it will still return us artist objects, but those artist objects have virtual attributes. So for instance, we could call .play count on one of those artist objects. So even though an artist doesn't have a play count, because we've selected that data, there's a virtual attribute of play count. All right, so I've got this slide here on thinking about SQL queries. This will come back up in our grouping and aggregating class, but I'll just talk through this briefly. So as you're thinking through a SQL query, you can think of it as this order. So the first order is just what tables do you need to work with? So going back to the beginning of this class, think about, are we working with multiple tables? If so, then we're going to need to join them together. So every query is going to need at least one from statement to say what table you're working with, and we can additionally join to other tables if we need other tables. So that's what tables you're working with. Then you need to think through what rows do you need from those tables. So that's where your where statement comes in. Only select rows where they meet this condition. What columns do you need? That's going to be your select statement. So only select these columns. And then how do you want to format the data? So do you want it ordered? Do you only want to see a certain number of records with a limit? Do you only want unique records with a distinct? All right, so that was a lot of information that I've thrown at you. I want to kick off this practice session. Yeah, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to share these slides with you all. And you all can go right to the end of the slides, and that will have the practice on them. And then if there's anything that I went through too fast, you have access to the slides as well, so you can take notes. So for the next 20 minutes, probably like 15 minutes, I want you all to work on these practice problems and or review anything that you might need to from earlier in this class. And I'll just kind of leave this call open. I want you all to work solo on this, and yeah, I'll take your questions as they come up. Are there any questions as of right now? All right, well, if there's no questions, go ahead and work through some of these practice problems. Unlike the beginning activity, you don't have to write the SQL. You can go straight into the Activerecord for these ones. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to give you all a couple minutes to try this on your own, and then I'd like to go over this first one together. So maybe give you all until 10:45 to work through these, and then I'll go over this first one. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and go over this first query. Yeah, let's do it. So active record for songs with a length greater than artists that have songs with a length greater than 400. So as I look at this query, if I'm looking for artists that have songs, there's my multiple tables. I need to look at multiple artists and then songs for each one of those artists. So if I go back over here to my Rails console and I do, what do I want to do here? So the first thing that I could try to do is I could try to do artist.where. I could say songs.length greater than 400 like this. Is that it? Length greater than 400? Yeah. So I could try to do something like this right off the bat, artist.where songs.length is greater than 400. And active record is going to tell me active record statement invalid, PG undefined table error, missing from clause entry for table songs. So essentially this is saying I don't have that table. If I change this around a little bit and try to just do where the length is greater than 400, so I don't reference the songs table, it's going to tell me the column length does not exist. So if we do length, it's going to say that column doesn't exist. If we say songs.length, it's going to say the songs table doesn't exist. So essentially, I'm trying to work with one table right now of artist, but I can't reference the song length. So this is kind of the cue of, oh, I need to join here. I need data from two different tables. So if I tell active record to joins this to our songs, remember the active record relation in my model is an artist has many songs with an S. If I add in join songs, then I should be able to work with the length column. And there we go. Now this query runs. So this is what we're looking for the first one. Artists that have songs with the length greater than 400. Yep. Ksenia?
I have a dumb question. What if we have in like two separate tables, what if we have columns that are named the same?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So a good example of that would be an ID or a created at. That's probably a better example. So both my songs and my artists have created at. Let me just double check that. Artist and song. Yeah, they both have created at and updated at. Cool. So what if we wanted to say, find songs that were created, let's say created at is greater than, I don't know, I could do time.now minus 4.days. So this is, Rails has a lot of handy helpers for working with time. So I could say find songs that were created more recently than 4 days ago, something like this. And the error that I get is PG ambiguous column error, column reference created at is ambiguous. So essentially this is saying like, I don't know which created at you want to reference. So what I would have to do here is use the syntax to specifically say, I want songs that were created at. So this is the syntax. It's table dot and then column name. And there you go. Other questions? All right, I'll let you all keep working for a couple more minutes and then we'll go over some more of these. Let's do a quick check-in actually. Can I get a hand raise if you've gotten all the way through these? Can I get a hand raise if you've gotten through 2 of these problems? Cool. That sounds perfect. So I want you all to really try these playlist ones. This one is like a little bit trickier. Yeah, I'll give you all a couple more minutes to work on that. Probably about 5 more minutes. All right, so I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to work through 2 more of these problems, and then I'll let you all work on the last one on your own. So I'll go ahead and do this. Which artists have at least one song with more than 100 plays? Which artists have at least one song with more than 100 plays? So in this case, I need information from my artists and my songs table. I need, yeah, I think this is pretty straightforward. So I think I can do this as artist. I'll start with artist.joins songs. And then I'll say where, and then what is this asking for? Song with more than 100 plays. So I'll say where play count. And because there's only one column called play count, there's not like a duplicate in artist and songs. I can just say play count. I don't have to say like songs.play count. And where the play count is greater than 100. And I think that's it. Artist.join songs where play count's greater than 100. Yeah. Yeah, and the reason why this works here is because it asks for where there's at least one. If it said something where it was like 2 or more songs, then we would have to throw in some extra counting feature to say count the number of songs and make sure that it's greater than so and so. But when it just says at least one, then this will work. Okay, let's get into the playlist one because this one is a little bit more complex. We haven't necessarily talked all the way through this. So which playlists have a song with a length greater than 400? So if I'm trying to find, it's very similar where we found artists where it had a play count greater than 100. So now we need to do playlists that have a play count greater than, or sorry, playlists with songs that have a play count greater than 100. As I mentioned earlier, when you are joining, you need to make sure that you're joining on your active record association. So maybe if I could just go half and half here, because now I need to get information from the playlist and the songs table, I need to join playlist to songs. So what I need to do here is I need to look at my playlist model and see what associations it has in here. So it has 2 associations, one to playlist songs and one to songs. So because we have this association to songs, we should be able to say playlist.joins songs. And back to my previous slide about thinking through SQL queries, as you're working through these queries, what I recommend is you really try and go in order here. So rather than throwing on the .where, at first, I'm first going to just see, can I join the tables together? Can I first get the tables to join together so that I have the data to work with, then start working with it with these wheres and selects and orders and limits, et cetera, et cetera. So first, make sure that you can join together before you move on to the other steps. So that's what I've done here, playlist.join songs. Let's see if it works. And it looks like it let me execute that query, but I'm getting back this empty active record relation. I think that's because I'm on my other version of Seeds that don't have any playlists. So maybe I'll just, I don't know, could I just throw all of them in there? Let me just throw everything in here. It might get a little big. Let's do Rails DB seed. My seed file might get a little big, but that's okay. Back to the Rails console. And my playlist model, I'll do playlist.joins songs. There we go. So now I can see some data in there now that I have some playlists. So because I have my association called songs, it let me join to it. But notice, and this is what we did earlier when Andrew asked this question, because we have 3 tables involved, Active Record automatically joins all of them together. So see how it does select playlist.star from playlists, inner join playlist songs, inner join songs. So Active Record knows magically to join all 3 of these tables together because there are 3 tables, playlist, playlist songs, and songs. And I say magically, but it's not really magic because our association songs goes through playlist songs. So this is another example of the power of associations. Because playlist has many songs through playlist songs, Activerecord knows that it needs to join to playlist songs first to get to songs. I kind of think of it as like a stepping stone in a river. So if I'm trying to get across from one side to the other, I might be able to just jump from one side to the other, but if the river is particularly wide, I might need a stepping stone in the middle. So playlist songs is kind of like my stepping stone to get from playlist to songs. And there's no limit to this concept. So if you have 4 tables, you can go through multiple tables and have 2 of those stepping stones. You could go through 5 or 6 or 20 or 100 or 1,000,000 or or whatever. There's no limit to how many of these through associations you can have to join through to other tables. So in this case, now that I can join to songs, I should be able to say where play count greater than 100. And because I've joined to that songs table, I have access to that play count column. And so that's how that query would work. So very important concept here. This is going to come up very quickly in the group project. You can join on any associations and go through as many tables as you need to. And that's kind of what this 4th query gets into. All right, y'all, that is everything that I have for you. Yeah, does anybody have any final questions before we wrap it up here? Ksenia?
I do. So let's just say for the last one, which playlists have a song by artist named Talking Heads? What if I just want to list the name of all artists from the join table? So I'll do like playlist join songs, and then what artist name dot all? How would that look like?
Yeah.
Like what if I want to have an intermittent query that would just like help me get to the final one?
Yeah. What do I want to do here? Let's just go over this one together. I think this will be good to do together. So no, you're fine. Yeah, I want to go over this one. So which playlists have a song by an artist named Talking Heads? So now we're not just going from playlist to playlist songs to songs. We need to now go from playlist to playlist songs to artists. So now we need to join all 4 of our tables together. And there's a couple ways I could do that. So one way that I can do that, and I'll just point you to these docs because these are very helpful. Activerecord query, yeah, it's query interface here. And there should be a section here on joining tables. Yep. So this section here is going to be very crucial for you all to like just understand joins, and in general, like reading the Rails docs, crucial for learning about Rails. And there's this section on here of joining nested associations. So essentially what a nested association is doing is if you need to jump across multiple associations. So I talked about this idea of these stepping stones going across the river. So if I look at songs as a stepping stone, my song, if I know I can go from playlist to songs, I can then go from songs to artists because a song belongs to an artist. So I would have to do some special syntax here. So what that would look like is playlist.joins songs. So using my songs association here, but then I can use keyword argument syntax like this to then say, okay, once you join to songs, then join from songs to artist. like this. So this is a nested association. And so now if we look at our SQL output, we can see select playlist.star from playlists, inner join playlist songs, inner join songs, inner join artists. So now I've joined all 4 of my tables together. So that's one way that you can do that, is with this nested association syntax. The other way that I think is a little bit easier is we can do something similar. We can do something very similar, but we can actually create that new association. So I can say, because I know I can go to playlists, and because I know I can go through playlist songs to songs, I should be able to go from songs to artists. So it has many artists through songs. And so now if I call reload with a bang in my terminal, I can say playlist.joins artists, and that will just join directly to my artist table. So 2 different ways you can do that. You can use a nested join syntax with these keyword arguments, or you can create new associations to join on them. Either way is perfectly valid. And that's, I think that's where we will wrap it up here. Yeah, this concept will come up more, especially as we start the group project. All right, y'all. I'll leave it here. You've got your PD groups in the afternoon. I'm going to close this Zoom call, and then I'm going to open it right back up for office hours. So I'll have my Zoom room open, and feel free to just pop in with whatever questions you might have on the project from class, whatever. I'm here for whatever you need. And please take a minute to leave me some feedback on the survey. Thank y'all.
Thank you.